गुड इवनिंग एवरीवन। संस्कृति और संस्कार दोनों ही नजर आते हैं। संस्कृति और संस्कार दोनों ही नजर आते हैं जब भूखे गरीब को हम अपने हाथों से खिलाते हैं। अपनी संस्कृति को जो भूल जाते हैं वो खिले फूल डालियों में भी मुरझा जाते हैं। सारा जहां ये जानता है यही हमारी पहचान है। संस्कृत से संस्कृति हमारी और हिंदी से हिंदुस्तान है। With this beautiful quote, I would like to welcome you all. Hello and a very warm good evening, all ladies and gentlemen present over here. A very, very warm welcome to one and all present over here in this absolutely wonderful, beautiful event, which is conducted on the occasion of World Heritage Day by KKMU University, Durg, Chhattisgarh. And the speaker of today's event is Natarajan sir. This session is organized by the School of Management and Entrepreneurship. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause so that we can start our session. Thank you. And moving forward, I would like to now introduce you all with some lines related to our Indian culture. Our nation's culture resides in the heart and soul of people. Similarly, South Indian culture, though with its visible differences, forms an important part of our Indian culture. It is essentially the celebration of eternal universe through the celebration of the beauty of the body and femininity. It is exemplified through its dance, clothing, and sculptures. Yes, I'm talking about today's session. Today's session is all about our South Indian culture. We all are Indians and we celebrate all festivals in every region of every religion. That is why it is called an incredible India. And our university is such where all students comes from different locations of the country and adopt themselves according to their surroundings. By saying this, we all must have understood by now that yes, I'm talking about KK Modi University, which works globally for the selfless development of their students. So, friends, KK Modi University is such, which is situated at Durg, Chhattisgarh, India, with a very beautiful campus and is a world-class career university with a soul. With this, I would now like to take this opportunity to introduce our Honorable Vice Chancellor of such reputed university. She is none other than Dr. Monica Shetty Sharma ma'am, who is a seasoned academician and a visionary leader who has mentored numerous students as well as many institutions for the last 25 years.
I think we should stop it over here. It is more important for us to introduce our guest.
Yes, ma'am. So moving on, this webinar is an attempt to have the students a wide exposure about our South Indian culture. So with this, I would now like to request our Honorable Vice Chancellor ma'am, Dr. Monica Shetty Sharma ma'am, to enhance us with her mesmerizing words.
Thank
Ma'am,
you.
all over to you.
Thank you so much. My duty is only to welcome Natarajan sir, a person whom I know from last 2 decades, that he was the best teacher, best dean, best boss, where you can learn so much. I was lucky enough that I have worked under sir. I was very lucky that sir was my dean, and I have learned a lot in my life. I have learned one thing which was very important from Natarajan sir, that you really have to work hard. I still remember Natarajan sir, if you permit me uh, to tell this, to share this to my students. When I joined BITS Pilani, um, I think I was maybe as young you people are, and at that particular time when I met Natarajan sir was my reporting boss. He was dean at that particular time, and I was supposed to report to him. So when I met sir, sir was sitting and he was been working. He was involved in the work, and and I had no patience. As usual, I was lacking with patience, and I just sat down and I was like, I wanted to meet Natarajan sir. And sir said, yeah, you will, but you need to give some time. I was wondering why I'm not been allowed to meet Professor Natarajan, because everybody was been talking so much about Natarajan sir that you're so lucky that he will be your boss. After 30 minutes, when he finished his work and all, he just said, okay, come, I'll take you to Dr. Natarajan. And then he took me to his big room. And I was wondering, there was no one. And he says, I'm Dr. Natarajan. And I was like, I was, oh my God, I was been after Natarajan sir, that I need to meet Professor Natarajan, and I did not do my homework. And honestly, I must tell you something. At that particular time, before I sat down, sir was been talking about me. He knew my qualifications, he knew where I worked, he knew everything about me. So that day, I learned a lesson that to whomever you're going to meet, you should do your homework very, very well. And the work, the way the sir used to do the work, the way he was being organized, whatever I am, Natarajan sir, I owe that to you. You have really taught me a lot. And this topic of yours will really enhance our knowledge towards the heritage of South Indian temples. Over to you, Natarajan sir. Sir, you're there with us.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your inspirational words. We will definitely remember it. And as we all know, friends, the purpose for today's gathering, which is learning history of South Indian temples through architecture. So let's hear more about it from our special guest of today's event. So for this, I would now like to invite Professor Vijayanagara sir, who have 4 decades of professional experience, that is, from January 1981 to March 2010, from BITS Pilani, Rajasthan, as a professor and a dean of work integrated learning programs. Next, from April 2010 to March 2011, as a professor, vice chancellor, and director school of engineering, Sridhar University, Pilani, Rajasthan. Next, from the year 2012 to April 2017, as a Vice Chancellor and Advisor of Sangam University, Bhilwara, Rajasthan. From May 2017 till date, he is playing a role as a professor and a head of chemical engineering in Banasthali, Vidyapith, second best women university in the world, as per the Times Higher Education Global Rankings. And adding on to his professional qualification, he has done BE Honours, MSc Honours, MPhil, and PhD as his educational qualifications. And with this note, I would like to invite Professor Natarajan sir on the stage to bless us with his knowledgeable words. And friends, in case of any queries, please put them all in the chat box and all your queries will be answered at the end of the session. Now, on behalf of whole KKMU University, I would like to invite Professor Natarajan sir to address us on today's event. All over to you, sir.
thank you all. Thank you, and it's a great pleasure. I think my video is off. Somebody must start my video.
Yes, sir, your video is off.
Video is off, sir.
Yeah, but how will I share my PPT, etc.?
Sir, I will be making you the host, then you can share your PPT for that.
Okay,
I think now, sir, your
Yeah.
video is,
I got it.
yeah. Rajbir, I think you can make sir as a host.
Yes, sir, I'm doing it.
I'll be doing a PowerPoint. I'll get it on. Okay, good evening to all of you, and great pleasure meeting good old friend Dr. Monica Sethi all over after nearly 25 years.
Good evening,
And
sir.
my pleasure to address you all on this occasion, World Heritage Day, And I am honored to be invited by your esteemed university on this occasion to give this talk. Okay, so I promise to make it interesting and thought-provoking for sure.
Yes, sir, your PPT is visible.
Yeah, yes, okay, slideshow. Okay, so there we are on to World Heritage Day, 18th April 2022, and I'll be talking on history of South India through temple architecture. And to just redo, I hold a B honors chemical engineering, MSc honors chemistry, MPhil and PhD, but I'm going to speak on history. Must be wondering, दाल में कुछ काला है? नहीं, दाल ही काला है. But don't worry, I'll do justice to it, and we will justify this somewhere toward the end of the lecture, how it all happened. Okay, there you have my phone number and email ID, and I'm presently with Banasthali Vidyapith, which is NAC A++, and we are the second best women's university in the world as per Times Higher Education Global Ranking. It is a pleasure to see woman, Dr. Monica, heading another university and women's empowerment all over. Thank you all. And already you have seen my profile, 4 decades with Bit Pilani, followed by a stint at Sridhar University, then at Bilwada Sangam University, and then presently for the last 5 years I am with Banasthali Vidyapith. Okay, and these are some of the honors I got, like the BIT Lifetime Achievement Award, Special Award for connecting the alumni of BIT with the alma mater, and very recently the student nominated me for some Education Icon Award. It was a surprise to me, and well, thanks all, and my pleasure to receive. You reach the stage in life and you should start receiving some awards also. Okay. Thank you. And there we are on to our topic, history of South India through temple architecture. And let's just get going with it. And history and heritage are two words that always go together. Remember, in the top, we have history, and the temples are the heritages. Okay, history and heritage are two words that always go together. History is the study of the past, and heritage refers to valued objects and qualities such as historic buildings and traditions that have been passed down from previous generation. Like you know, Shah Jahan, the Mughal emperor, and Taj Mahal, the heritage. He left behind something for generations to watch. And okay, are you able to read the slide fully, or okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Heritage is an essential part of the present we live in and of the future we will build, right? So heritage is an essential part of the present we live in and of the future we will build. So it has something, heritage is something which happened in the past, but it is an essential part of what we are today and will be an essential part of what we are going to be tomorrow also. First thing, very few people take up history as a subject of study. Let me just justify why we should all study history. Although a firm grasp on the past does not guarantee avoidance of its failures and mistakes, understanding the past and its patterns enhances one's ability to analyze the present. By understanding the past and analyzing it, we are able to analyze the present and what will happen in future. Few human activities are devoid of historical analysis. Let me quickly justify. Doctors cannot make a good diagnosis of the patient without first taking the medical history. Coaches cannot develop a game plan for a, say, cricket match or a football match without analyzing the tendencies, the history of the opponents, how they play, what is their game strategy. Judges and lawyers cannot draft a judgment or return brief without grasping precedent, what happened earlier, that is history. CEOs cannot reposition their company without understanding market and sales history. Banks cannot loan to borrowers without taking their credit history. Forget it all. College admission officers cannot make a decision on an application for admission unless they feel comfortable that the student's academic performance history predicts the trajectory of good future performance. That's why you attach all your previous mark sheet, board exam, and all to that. That is your academic performance history, which will help the college to decide whether you are suitable for admission. There is history everywhere, from sports to doctors to judges to CEOs to bank officers to college admissions and doctors. So history is there, first accept it. The study of history is indeed a worthwhile and necessary for the education of effective citizens and worthy human beings. Historical knowledge is no more and no less than carefully, critically constructed collective memory. As such, it can both make us wiser in our public choice and more richly human in our private life. History makes us more human. History is also a bridge to other disciplines. In order to understand other humanities and the subjects and humanities and the sciences, one needs an historical overview of writers, artists, scientists, politicians, and everyday people. All are conditioned by the historical milieu in which they live. Historical knowledge is a prerequisite for understanding the world we live. History is magister vitae, teacher of life. History prepares us to be more humanly in the present and to meet challenges of the future because it provides us with understanding of the human condition. History is a means of disseminating and comprehending wisdom and folly of our forebears. So history is a subject which is not to be ignored. In 1982, UNESCO's General Conference established 18th April as the International Day for Monumental Sites, which we all celebrated as World Heritage Day. The day is promoted by ICOMOS globally, and the theme for 2022 is Heritage and Climate. You know, climate, very hot, 45 degrees, and very cold. And what happens to the monument? Can they withstand these extremes of temperature? Right. Can the pollution from industries, how they will affect? Right. So that is all about heritage and climate. But today we are more focused on the heritage and our topic. Okay. So, but for interest's sake, I would like to tell that the theme for this year happens to be heritage and climate. World heritage represents natural and cultural resources so exceptional that they should be conserved by all humankind forever. World heritage sites and objects are the best of the best. India has a whole lot of heritage from north to south to east to west. Yet many natural and cultural heritage, world heritage sites are at a risk from climate change. There is an urgent need to understand the world ways climate threatens various sites and artifacts, and to understand what adaptation strategies, if any, are appropriate for their conservation. Okay, this is about the theme, and let's get on board to what we are on. What is the brief history of India? Originally referred as Jambudvipa, with mighty Himalayas in the north, Arabian Sea on the west, Bay of Bengal on the east, and the Indian Ocean down south. The history of India is as old as history itself. Let's not draw a starting point. Right. It is as old as history itself. जितना आप दूर जा सकते हो, उतना पुराना हमारा चरित्र है. Making it the 7th largest nation in the world with a total area of 7,87,263 square kilometers, surrounded by Bhutan, Nepal, Bangladesh to the north, East China and Burma, to the north, East China, Northeast, China to the north, Pakistan to the northwest, and Sri Lanka on the southeast coast. Okay, that's about our boundary. India is a land of ancient civilization India's social, economic, cultural configurations are the products of long process of regional expansion. Indian history begins with the birth, as far as historians are concerned, with the Indus Valley civilization and the coming of the Aryan. These two phases are usually described as the pre-Vedic and the Vedic age. This is about what we know about as history. Let's not get into debating about it. For the purpose, we take it as it is, right? For the purpose of today's talk, we will broadly consider most of North India, defined by the rivers Sindhu, that is Indus, Yamuna, Ganga, Brahmaputra, right? That is North India, and South India defined by the rivers Narmada, Mahanadi, Krishna, Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri. So we use the river as the point of defining North India and South India. So south of Narmada, Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, we call it South India, and above Narmada, the Ganga, Yamuna, Sindhu, Brahmaputra, we call it as North India. The four phases of North Indian history, all of us know it. Maurya dynasty 265 BCE, Gupta dynasty, BCE is before the Christian era. Gupta dynasty 320 to 550 BC, Christian era. Harshavardhana 606 to 647 CE. Mughal Empire, wow, 200 years, 1530 to 1707 Christian era. These are four phases of North Indian history. Let's just look at a map of the country during these dynasties. Look at the Maurya dynasty. That is the Chandragupta Maurya, Ashoka, Chanakya period. Almost the whole of India, was under the Mauryan Empire, except the southern part of India. All this pink color is all Mauryan Empire, but the last part is not part of the Mauryan Empire. Now come to the Gupta dynasty, Gupta Empire. Gupta Empire is smaller than the Maurya Empire, covered most of North India and Orissa, etc., Kalinga used to be called. So, but a lot of the Deccan Plateau was not under the Gupta Empire. That's where, remember, this is where the Narmada river, Narmada, right? So the Guptas had come down Narmada, but only along the Orissa, Andhra coast. But they didn't touch the rest of Deccan Plateau and the southern India, Krishna, Kaveri, Gota, what is that? Kaveri region. Wow. Harshavardhana, or bhi chota, mostly the typical North India. Ganga, Yamuna, some parts of Gujarat, Narmada, river Narmada happens to be the boundary of the Harshavardhana Empire. Kya hua? Harshavardhan could come down? Okay, let's go ahead to the Mughal Empire. Mughal Empire, this color denotes the Babur's one, then the yellow one denotes the Akbar Empire, then the pink one denotes the Aurangzeb Empire. Aurangzeb time, the Mughal Empire was almost the whole of India, excepting the southern parts of India. So, whether it is the Maurya Empire, Gupta Empire, Harshavardhana Empire, or the Mughal Empire, South was not part of their empires. It was separate. What was happening in the southern parts of India? That's where we start questioning. Remember, we just saw that the Maurya, Gupta, Harshavardhana, Mughal Empire did not include the significant part of South India. What was happening in the southern parts of India? That's our topic for today. Yes, there were 6 major dynasties of South India, like you heard of the Mauryas, Guptas, Harshavardhana, and Mughal. So the 6 major dynasties of South India, the Cheras, 500 BCE. Cheras were there ruling parts of Kerala and Tamil Nadu from 500 before Christian era. Pallavas, 600 CE. This is a rough range. I'm not giving from to. It's very difficult to say what is the starting point and ending point. Mostly the ending points are known. The starting points are still yet to be determined. Chalukyas, 600 to 1200 CE. Cholas, 848 to 1279 CE. Remember, there were Cholas even before 848. But history has not documented still fully all them by names and duration. Pandyas, 500 before Christian era to 1215 Christian era. Vijayanagara Empire, 1336 to 1646 CE. Wow, 6 major dynasties of South India. And what did all these dynasties do is what we are going to look at today. Learning a bit of history, and then we will bring the heritage of what these kings have done. You saw Shah Jahan with his Taj Mahal. I will show these kings with the heritages they have left for you and me, presently and for future. The Chera kingdom included parts of Kerala, most of Kerala and parts of Tamil Nadu. In fact, the Chera Empire had Karur, which is presently in Tamil Nadu, as the capital. They had two capitals, one inland and one on the coast. And near Kochi, they had another capital called Musiri, right? So these are the Cheras, Chera kingdom, right? Small, but they were not part of those Mughals and Guptas and Mauryas. They stood on their ground. Chera kingdom included Kerala and parts of Tamil Nadu. Early Cheras ruled between 5th century BCE to 5th century CE, and later Cheras, also known as Kulasekaras, ruled during 8 to 12 CE. Some of the early Chera kings, I'm just naming them: Udiyan Cheralathan, Nedum Cheralathan, Selva Kadum Gavadiathan, Senguttu and Cheran, Ilam Cheral Irumporai. These are names of the kings. Manthar and Cheran. This is the early Cheras. Then the later Cheras, also known as Kulasekara, Kulasekara Varma, Rajashekara Varma, Stanu Ravi Varma, Rama Varma Kulasekara, Goda Ravi Varma, Indukota Varma, Bhaskara Ravi Varma 1, Bhaskara Ravi Varma 2, Veera Kerala, Rajasimha. Probably you can say that Udiyan Cheralathan was the first Chera king which is recorded in our history, and Rajasimha the last Chera king. Wow. This Nedum Cheralathan was also known as Himayavaramban, the one who is conqueror of the Himalayas. And Senguttu and Cheran went all the way to Himalayas to bring a stone to make a temple. He went all the way to Himalayas to bring a particular type of stone to make a statue for installing in the temple he built. We'll come to it. Okay, have patience. Then comes the Pallava territory. Pallava territory is included North Tamil Nadu, typically Kanjipuram, Chennai, and certain parts of Andhra and Karnataka. That is the pink portion that is seen, Pallavas. See, this is at a particular point of time. Sometimes they lost some territory, they added territory, so it varies. The typical picture I have shown you. That is the Pallava territory. Some of the great Pallava kingdom, they included present-day Chennai, Kanjipuram, northern Tamil Nadu and southern Andhra Pradesh. Some of the great Pallava kings include Simha Vishnu. That is, he is considered as the first known Pallava king, Mahendra Varman I, Narasimha Varman I, Mahendra Varman II, Parameswara Varman I, Narasimha Varman II, Parameswara Varman II, Nandi Varman II, Danti Varman, Nandi Varman III, Aparajita Varman. Aparajita Varman is considered as the last Pallava Empire king, after which nobody could trace them. But they left heritages. They left heritages. We'll come to it. Right. Then comes the Chola Empire. Chola Empire at a point of time had the entire South India under their control. Right? It included, they had subdued the Cheras, Pallavas and Pandyas, and the combined empire of Cholas included almost the entire South India. That is the Cholas, great Cholas. Remember, Cholas not only were there in India, they had one of the most powerful navies, and they had traveled to Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, there all. We'll come to it. The Chola Empire not only included most of South India, but also overseas like Sri Lanka and Maldives. Today we go for Maldives holiday, and Cholas had gone to do business. Right? Maldives. We had Cholas and Pallavas had one of the most powerful navies. The Mughals did not have a good navy. If Mughals had a navy, the Britishers and Europeans would not have entered India. Mughals had a great army, but they lacked a navy. That's why all those Europeans landed on the coast, Bombay and etc., and put up their davas there and took over. Okay, that is the strength of the South Indian king who had Cheras, had trading relations with Europe, Arabia, etc., selling spices and whatnot. So all the South Indian kings, Pandya, Cheras, Cholas, Pallavas, they had great navies. Right? And some of the great Chola kings include Vijayanagara Chola, Aditya I. These are the later Cholas. The earlier Cholas like Karikalan and all is not there fully in the historical complete documentation herewise. So Vijayanagara Chola, Aditya I, Parantaka Chola, Gandharaditya Chola, Haringya Chola, Sundara Chola, also known as Parantaka Chola II, Uttama Chola, Raja Chola I, Rajendra Chola I, Rajadhira Chola, Rajendra Chola II, Veera Rajendra Chola, Ati Rajendra Chola, Kulottunga Chola, Vikrama Chola, Kulottunga Chola II, Raja Rama Chola II, Rajadiraja Chola II, Kulottunga Chola III, Rajaraja Chola III, Rajendra Chola III. Rajendra Chola III happens to be the last of the Chola king. No problem. Let's come to the Chalukya dynasty. The Chalukyas had most of Maharashtra and Karnataka and parts of Andhra, etc., under their custody. That is, they were there in the Narmada river and right somewhere up to the Krishna Kaveri coast, they were controlling. That is the Chalukya Empire. They were ruling between 600 to 1200 CE. These are the four major dynasties. Then comes the above all Vijayanagara, the Chalukya Empire. Let's have a quick look at some of the kings. The Chalukya Empire extended large areas of South India between the river Narmada and Kaveri. The Chalukya dynasty can be studied into three parts. The Chalukyas of Badami, Chalukya of Vengi on the eastern Chalukya, and the Chalukya of Kalyani called the western Chalukyas. Some of the kings from Chalukya Badami include Pulakesin I, Kirtivarman I, Mangalesha, Pulakesin II, Vikramaditya I, Vijayaditya, Vikramaditya II, Kirtivarman II. Pulakesin II, great king. Harshavardhana tried to cross the river Narmada to capture south, and Pulakesin just told Harsha, Jaiye wapas, go back. Right, you can't cross me. Narmada hamara hai. Right. So Harsha was defeated by Pulakesin II, the Chalukya king, and Harsha could not go south. And Pulakesi also defeated Mahendravarman, the Pallava king, the man who built, those Mahabalipuram temples, etc., and captured the Pallava also as part of it. But Mahendravarman's son, Narasimhavarman, he took revenge. He attacked Chalukya again and killed Pulakesin and attacked the Chalukya, the lost empire back. So there has always been fighting between the Chalukyas and Pallavas, Pallavas and Cholas, Cholas and Pandyas, right? And somewhere Cheras joined this side, that side. So this has been going on. They were fighting among themselves, but they were all strong. Some of the kings from the Chalukya Vengi, the eastern Chalukya include Vishnuvardhana Jayasimha, Indra Bhatraka, Vishnuvardhana II, whole lot of them. Okay, so we can have a lot of names there, and some of the kings from Chalukya of Kalyani, but the Chalukyas of Badami were the most powerful, and they lost a lot of their parts of the Chalukya Empire to the Pallavas and other kings, and so the eastern Chalukya had only a small part of the original Chalukya Empire, and the western Chalukya had a small part of the original Chalukya Empire. These are western Chalukya is the Kalyani Chalukya, and the eastern Chalukya is the Vengi Chalukya. So we have a whole lot of names there. Then comes the great Pandyan Empire. Pandyan Empire at one point of time controlled almost the entire South India. Pandya kings were great powerful warriors. Okay, and they also had many parts of half of Sri Lanka was under the Pandyan Empire. Okay, so great warriors, Pandya king. Some of the Pandya kingdom, this was mentioned by Megasthenes, who was a traveler from Europe to India to write about the tour. And he said that the Pandya kingdom was famous for pearls. No, but Tuticorin was famous for pearl harvesting. They occupied the region of the modern district of Tirunelveli, Ramnad, and Madurai in Tamil Nadu. Madurai was their capital, situated on the banks of the river Vaigai. Some of the great Pandya kings include Puduppandiyan, Mudukkulumi Paruvaludi, Nedunjeliyan I, Nedunjeliyan II, Nanmaran, Nedunjeliyan III, Maran Valudi, Karalan Valudi, Musiri Telian, Ukirap Viruladi, Kadungo Maravarman, Avani Kulamani, Jayantavarman, Arikesara Maravarman, Kochadayan, Ranadiran, Maravarman Rajasimha I, Jatila Parantaga, Rasasingan II, Varagunan Sri Sri Vallabha, Varaguravarman II, Ramsrupa Veeranarayana, Maravarman Rajasimhan III. They were great kings. Then comes the great Vijayanagara Empire. More late, 1446 to 1520, they controlled almost the entire South India. Right? Entire South India was in the Vijayanagara Empire. And compared to Vijayanagara Empire, included almost the whole of South India. There were 4 dynasties which ruled over Vijayanagar: the Sangama dynasty, the Saluva dynasty, Tuluva dynasty, and Aravidu dynasty. Sangama, they were the first dynasty to rule over the Vijayanagara Empire. The founders of the empire are Harihara I and Bukka. They belong to this dynasty. They ruled between 1334 AD to 1485 AD. Then comes the Saluva dynasty, which controlled the Vijayanagara Empire. They succeeded the Sangama as the second dynasty of the empire. They ruled from 1485 to 1505. A very short period. You can see just about 20 years only. They ruled over almost the whole of South India. Then comes the Tuluva dynasty. This was the third dynasty which ruled the Vijayanagara Empire, and the most famous king of Vijayanagara Empire, Krishna Deva Raya, belongs to this dynasty. In fact, the rule of Krishna Deva Raya is considered as the golden period of Indian history. Like during the Gupta period, we used to call it as the golden period of Indian history. The Krishna Deva Raya period was considered as the golden part of the Indian history. And the Tuluva dynasty ruled from 1491 AD to 1570 AD. Although the empire continued to exist till 1646 AD, they lost the importance in 1565 AD after the key military defeat at the Battle of Talakota by the Deccan Sultanate. Right. There were several sultanates in the southern in India, in the South India. They all ganged up and put a combined battle with the Vijayanagara Empire, the Battle of Talikota, which is equivalent to what happened in the Battle of Panipat between Babur and Ibrahim Lodi. The same way the Deccan Sultanate subdued the Vijayanagara Empire and took over them. Then the last leftovers were Aravidu dynasty. This was the fourth and last Hindu dynasty to rule Vijayanagara kingdom in South India. Then come South India. What did these kings do?
Hello.
Ah, they fought battles.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, I have a small query because whatever the dynasty you are telling, it's absolutely, it is not found in any history book. So can I ask a small question? If you
Yes.
allow.
Yes.
Sir, I have a query like uh, whatever the history I have studied, yeah, we have studied in North India, Bahadur Shah Jafar was the last king of the Mughal Empire. So
Yes.
in South India, which was the emperor, yeah, which was the king, was the last emperor which you consider? After that, the Britishers have taken over. So which was the dynasty, which was the kingdom, was the last?
Either way, the Vijayanagara Empire, I told you, somewhere, some king from the Aravidu dynasty, where after this the defeat of Battle of Talikota,
Okay. So after
others took
50,
over. Right.
okay. Aravidu
So,
dynasty was the
Battle
last.
of Talikota is the deciding point where the end of the Vijayanagara Empire happened. They were the last set of rulers in South India. Then it moved to the Deccan Sultanate, and then the Britishers and the Europeans took over.
Wow, sir, exactly. Thank you. Thank you very much,
Okay.
sir.
Nice. I'm happy to hear the question. Okay. Now, like all kings, these kings also ruled their country. They were good administrators. They were good warriors. They fought battles. They went abroad, did trading with the Southeast Asian countries, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Arabia, Europe. Right? You find Roman coins in South Indian villages. Right? So that was great. And they promoted literature, great books, and poetry was written during these kings. The revival of the Bhakti movement started during these kings, right? There was a movement of Jainism and Buddhism dominating in the southern part of India, but these kings revived the Bhakti movement to bring back the Vaishnavi and Saivite movement by promoting great, scholars who sang poems and written great books, right? So these are some of their contributions, but above all, they built great temples. They built great temples. Today, if you go to some Kanjipuram, you may not find a palace of the Pallava king, but you find the temple built by him. You go to Madurai, you will find a Pandya palace there, but you will find the Madurai Meenakshi Temple. Wow, that is the heritage they left for us. Right. So today, when you say South India, everybody thinks, wow, fantastic temples. In fact, the whole travel and tourism to South India has been built on temple tourism. They are the heritages. And we come to those temples right now. Remember, KKMU University in Durg was part of Chhattisgarh. You also have a great heritage. Right. Heritage does not mean it should be in the form of some temple, building, Taj Mahal, Red Fort, etc. You have the Pandwani storytelling, Cajun by the heritage. The people who ruled had promoted it, otherwise it could have died long back. The Raut Nacha, the Panti dance, Suva dance, these are all heritages of the Chhattisgarh, right? And we, from South India, we call the temples built by the great kings, Chera, Chola, Pandya, Chalukya, Pallava, as the heritages. Okay. And they also, remember, during this period, Carnatic music flourished and great dancers like Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, Kathakali, Yakshagana, they all flourished during this period. Otherwise, आज में Bharatanatyam रहता ही नहीं है, right? So they promoted art, dance, music, and architecture in the form of temples, not palaces. Right? Today, if you see in Rajasthan, there are a whole lot of palaces. Jodhpur, Jaipur, Udaipur. But Chera Chola Pandya, महल नहीं बनाया, मंदिर बनाया. Right? That is the heritage. Let's get on to them. there are three main style of temple architecture, which are the Nagara or the northern style, the Dravida or the southern style, and the Vesara or the mixed style. Nagara, the northern style of temple architecture, the Dravida, the southern style, and the Vesara or mixed style. Just look at a picture of the temple. This is the Nagara or the northern style, typical North Indian temple. Just look at this. This spire, there is a main part of the temple is somewhat bell-shaped. This is the typical part of the Nagara style. Come to the Dravida style. Remember, this is pyramidal. This is the Dravida style. This is bell-shaped. Dravida style is pyramid, and Vesara style. The mixture of both. The mixture of both. This is we are not getting into Vastu Shastra of temple architecture. I'm just showing you the main features of the temple architecture. What is the difference between Dravida and the Nagara style temple architecture? The biggest difference is the temple spire of the Dravidian temple is pyramidal in shape, while the Nagara spire is a curved bell shape. Also, the northern temples usually do not have carved mandapams, huge halls, or the stunning Gopuram gateways seen in the counterparts in the south. Most South Indian temples, they have huge halls, maybe multi-pillared, 1,000-pillared halls are very common in many temples. Right, 1,000-pillared halls. Imagine 1,000 pillar means how big the hall must be. Right, multiplexes. Though these spires come in many designs and shapes, they all have mathematical precision and geometric symbolism. Mathematical precision, the height, diameter, they are all mathematically and geometrically defined. It's not just to a man se apna mansi se bharo. No. But we are not getting into the architecture of the building. Let's just pick up something more. When you say South India tour, it means seeing the temples of South, which are the heritages left by the great kings. Okay, so Kodungalur Bhagavati Temple was built by Senguttu and Cheran, 150-200 CE. Bhagavati Temple, Kali, Bhagavati. And this temple also has Kandagi deity. Kandagi is considered as the heroine of the great Tamil literature, Silappatikaram, considered as one of the 5 great works, right? Silappatikaram, where Kandagi gets angry and because her husband is accused as a thief, and she lets her fury by burning the entire Madurai city, telling the king that you have made a wrong decision by accusing my husband as a thief. Right? So her husband's name is Poland, and Kandagi then considered as incarnation of goddess Shakti, Bhagavati type, and Senguttu and Cheran built the temple and put Kandagi. For this statue, he went all the way to Himalaya to bring a stone to make it. And Senguttu and Cheran brother was the one who wrote the great poem, Silappatikaram. Right there. So you can see that Kodungalur Bhagavati Temple in Kerala, built by Senguttu and Cheran, a must-see heritage. Kandiyur Sri Mahadeva Temple, 823 C. Cheraman Perumal Nayanar Rajashekara Varman. Look at this. Beautiful style and separate. Of course, the Chera architecture is slightly different from the Dravidian style. Remember, the Chera temples were made more in the early Chera period, right? They had this architecture, and Kerala is full of rain, so sloping roof so that the water would collect on the temple top, right? So there are these are not designed, just for liking. They are chosen.
So these last 2 temples are not following that Nagara and Dravida, because these the last 2 temples that you show is not following the northern and southern.
I told you already, these Kerala temples, they are on the coast, and Kerala is full of heavy rain, and these temples, you know, they have made it with sloping roof so that
Yes, sir.
water won't collect. And this is a typical Kerala architecture, right?
Okay.
So take it that we have not given any name to it, but in the early part of temple making, the Dravida style came later on with the Pallavas and Cholas, right? Before that, the Cheras are very old. So they made temples like this. These are the temples. Okay. But thank you for the question. And you have Tirunelli Mahavishnu temple built by Kulasekar and Chera 761 to 834 CE. I think it's somewhere in Wayanad, in the beautiful part of North Kerala, right? Wayanad. Kulasekar and Chera, the Tirunelli Mahavishnu temple. Reaching those temples is a traveler's delight. And remember, they have stood when they were built 761, and today we are 2022. Heritage. Taj Mahal to abhi ka hai. These are how many years more do you calculate? Then comes the Pallavas. Pallavas were great. They did rock carving. Remember, this is a part of a mountain rock, and they used to carve the rocks to make temples. Mandagappattu rock cave temple. First time Dwarapalas were introduced. Remember, today when you enter any temple, there will be two statues. They are known as Dwarapalas. They guard the entry to the temple. And Mahendravarma Pallava was the first to introduce these Dwarapala into the temple making. And the temples were famous for rock carving. Remember, they were cutting into rocks, and temples were made. Mahendravarma. Remember, he was defeated by Pulakesi II. Okay. Then comes the cave temple Mahabalipuram. Narasimhavarman. Narasimhavarman fought back Pulakesi II, killed him, and took back the empire and took revenge for defeating his father. And he is the man behind the Mahabalipuram famous temple. Anyone who goes to South Mahabalipuram, dekha kya? Dekha raha. Narasimhavarma Pallava. Look at this. This is also a rock carving. Pancharata Mahabalipuram. 5 rathas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Narasimhavarma Pallava. 630 to 668 CE. They are there. Today also, if you go, you see heritage. Shore Temple, Mahabalipuram, Rajasimha Pallava, 700 to 728 CE. Look at this, right on the shore. Today you make a guest house in the seafront, seawater corrodes it. These temples have stood the test of time and salty sea waters, and they stand intact. Shore Temple, Mahabalipuram. Then comes the famous temple, Kailashanatha Temple, Kanchipuram, by Rajasimha Pallava, 685 to 705. Yes. I think my friend who asked the question, now you can see the Dravida architecture is coming into picture, right? Before that, remember the Shore Temple also, the pyramidal shape has come, and the Kailasanatha Temple at Kanchipuram.
Yes, sir. They
Dravida
are
architecture has come.
Dravida
The
architecture.
Chera, this is the later Cheras made temples which followed the Dravidian architecture, right? The temples made by the Cheras near, in the parts of Tamil Nadu, they all follow the Dravidian architecture. But the ones who made on the Western Ghats in Kerala, due to the heavy rain, they had the sloping roof and different concept. Okay, so Rajasimha Pallava, Kailashanatha temple, must see one. Then comes the Chalukyas, the Badami cave temple, Chalukya. Earlier, Badami was known as Vatapi. It is in Karnataka, and Vatapi was the capital of the Chalukya Empire. Vatapi Kondan means the one who defeated Vatapi king. Right? Narasimhavarman is known as Vatapi Kondan, meaning he conquered the king of Vatapi. Right? The Badami cave. Badami, the new name of Vatapi, and beautiful. Look at this. By the side of the lake, on the rock, they were also rock carvings. Right? Pandavas and Chalukyas had something common in temple architecture, but they fought. युद्ध तो होता ही था, but मंदिर में थोड़ा एकता थे. Badami Cave Temple. Wow, look at this. There are many caves. Badami Cave Temple 1. Lord Natarajan with 18 arms. Badami Cave Temple 3. Mahavishnu seated on Adisesha. Badami Cave 4. Jain Tirthankara Parvata. See, remember, these things, at some point of time, some of the Chalukyas patronized Jainism. At some parts of time, they had patronized Buddhism. And so the temples were not confined only to Hindu gods. The Badami Cave 4 has the Jain Tirthankara Parvanatha. Right. Then there is a Lord Khan Shiva temple in Aihole, Karnataka, Chalukya architecture. Lord Khan has nothing to do, it's only the place which it belongs to, but it is a Shiva temple. Okay. Papanath temple, Pathatkal, Chalukya architecture. Look at this. This is the Nagara style, you can see. Okay. You can say it's a sort of Vesara also, because they are introducing some halls or mandapam as part of the temple. Then come a group of temples. Wow, look at it. Pathatkal, Chalukyas. Right. So Badami, Aihole, Pathatkal, these are places which must be in your De Kapana Desh program. Virupaksha temple, Hampi, 740 CE. Look at it. Fantastic. Dravida architecture comes. Mandapam. Right. Then comes the big temple. I am using the word big temple because everywhere in south, the Tanjore temple is known as big temple. Kyunki इससे बड़ा कोई हो ही नहीं सकता. Bragadishwara temple at Thanjavur, Raja Chola, 985 to 1012 CE, the most famous Chola king, Raja Shiva, it is written, Shiv. Nandi, the huge Nandi. The Nandi itself is like a temple in a mandapam. And look at this. Here there is a reception mandapam. Inside there are many. And the main deity, Shiva, the Linga, Bragadishwara, is below this. And this is a very tall structure temple. They built it with such a geometry. They say that the shadow of the temple tower will never fall on the ground. In many temples, you will see with sun movement, the temple shadow, the temple tower shadow falls there. But they have made this temple in such a way that the temple shadow will never fall on the ground. Great geometry, heritage. Right, you and I can make 5-star hotels, but I say mandir hum nahi bana sakte. Bragadishwara temple at Thanjavur, Raja.
Actually true.
Yes. Then comes the temple at Gangaikonda Cholapuram, Rajendra Chola. He is the son of Rajaraja Chola, Gangaikonda Cholapuram, meaning he went all the way to Ganga and conquered. Right there. So the great king Rajendra Chola, he built his capital in Gangaikonda Cholapuram and built a equally marvelous Shiva temple to rival his father's big temple at Thanjavur, and it is Gangaikonda Cholapuram. The huge Nandi with the Shiva temple there. Okay. And then comes the Airavateshwara temple at Dharasura. Dharasuram is a place near Tanjore. Raja Chola 2, 1166 CE. Look at this fantastic temple right there. The Airavateshwara temple in the Chola kingdom. Every village has got half a dozen temples. You can say there are over 30,000 temples, all over Tamil Nadu. We are not going to go into all of them, right? I'm just showing you a namuna trailer of some of those great temples. Okay, come then the Meenakshi Temple, Madurai, Kulasekara Pandya. Look at this. The temple itself is like a city. Among number of gopuram, temple towers. There, you call them as based on the direction. East star,
Amazing.
West, East star, West star, North star, South star, right there. So there's 17 of them, right? And the fantastic, one of the biggest temples, I'm using one of the biggest temples in South India. We'll come to the biggest one, right? Meenakshi Temple, Madurai. Delhi Upper Temple, Tirunelveli by Parakara Pandya. Look at this. Wow. Just The very look of it is how inspiring by Parakra Pandya. Then the Sri Villiputtur Temple, Vallabhadeva, 765-815. This is unique because the Tamil Nadu government sealed, the Raja Mudra of Tamil Nadu government uses the temple tar. That is the Sri Villiputtur Temple devoted to devotee of Vishnu, Andal. Okay, the Sri Villiputtur Temple, right, by Vallabhadeva. Then come all the great Rameshwaram Temple, the very famous long corridor. This is the longest corridor in any temple. This was built by Pandya king and later by the Nayaks of Vijayanagar and their appointees, Setupatis, who controlled Ramnayak. Right? Remember, the Vijayanagara Empire had put Nayaks in different parts of South India, and the Nayaks who ruled, who were in charge of Madurai, had also contributed to development of the Meenakshi Temple and also to the Rameshwaram Temple. It is said that some king from Sri Lanka, Jaffna area, also contributed to the development of the Sri Lanka Temple, Rameshwaram Temple. Right. Then the Vijayanagar stone chariot. My God, it looks like a real chariot. Stone chariot made of stone, like real wheel. Vijayanagar 1336 to 1520. Then the Vitala Temple in Hampi, Vijayanagar 1336 to 1520. Vitala Temple. Inside the Vitala Temple, you have pillars. There are some pillars which are called music pillars. You tap the pillar, you will get a music. Wow! There's no hidden gadget.
It's in
no
Hampi, sir. It's in Hampi near Ballari, if I'm not wrong.
Yes?
It is in Hampi, sir. It's near Ballari, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same temple.
Bellary is the nearest, railhead for Hampi. Right? You are absolutely right. Just a few half an hour journey from Bellary, you will be in Hampi. It looks like you have been to Bellary, but you haven't been to Hampi.
Yeah. It is beautiful. It is beautiful.
Okay. Then come the Chidambara Nataraja Temple. Now you know why my name is Natarajan. My father was a great man, and in devotion of the Lord Nataraja at Chidambaram Temple, he named me Natarajan. Chidambaram Nataraja Temple built during 1175 to 200 CE. They had the involvement of Pandya kings that contributed at some point of time, and the Chola kings also at some point of time. Because it's a very close part of the Chola Empire, very not far from the Tanjavur, right? So the Chidambaram Nataraja Temple. Look at this, wow! And Srirangam Temple. Srirangam Temple, incidentally, from my village in Trichy, I get up and look up, I can see the Srirangam Temple. Look at it! The photograph taken by a student of mine, Prabhu Das, who's a ace photographer. Many photographs I showed in this are dedicated to Prabhu Das. And this is one of the fantastic photos he took of covering all the main gopurams, in one particular angle. Look at it, it goes like a multi-story. The Srirangam Temple. What is so special about it? It is the largest temple in India. It is the largest temple in India.
And sir, the colors which are being there, dominated colors, the different colors, they stay like this in the hot summer?
They have stood the test of time, and after a few years when the colors fade, then the renovation of the temple is done, and they do what is known as Kumbhabhishek. Right? They renovate the temple by decorating the kalasas, and the kalasas are all on top of the temple tower. They are all washed and with Ganga water and holy water from all rivers. It's a huge function. Right? So Kumbhabhishekam is done once the temple authorities feel trying to renovate and do a repainting of all these things. The artist who will sit and redo the coloring. Right? So Srirangam Temple, right next to Trichy on the banks of the river Kaveri, my village. And there on earth is this beautiful and magnificent temple. Look at it. I mean, the very look is, giving a thrill. Oh, I forgot to tell you, the Srirangam Temple has contribution at some point of time by the Cholas, Pandyas, Pallavas, and the Vijayanagara Empire. So I would be able to say that a particular king, Chola or a Pandya only did. They may have added a gopuram. These tall structures are known as gopuram, and is very typical of the South Indian temple, right? And so all the kings are involved. So let's not try to divide history there. Okay. Then comes this. Where on earth is this beautiful and magnificent temple? Very how inspiring. Looks like एक सेल्फी लेने का मन लग रहा है, right? But कहाँ पर हो ये? कहाँ पर हो? It is not in India. It is in Angkor Wat, meaning the city of temples in Cambodia. But कुछ हमारा नगरा द्राविड़ स्टाइल तो लग रहा है. अब लगेगा ना, हमारा लेक्चर में तो आया ही है. Angkor Wat meaning the city of temples in Cambodia is the largest, world's largest temple, religious monument on the planet Earth, and is spread across 400 acres of 1.6 square kilometers, and is said to be the largest religious monument in the world. It was listed as a UNESCO World Heritage. You may say, sir, you said lecture is on South India, but आप Cambodia ले जा रहे हैं. हम बता रहे हैं जी इसमें क्या कहानी है, right? In 1992, UNESCO World Heritage put Angkor Wat, which encouraged an international effort to save the complex. It was originally built as a Hindu Vishnu temple dedicated to God Vishnu, and breaking the previous king's tradition of worshipping Shiva. Right? The previous kings in Cambodia used to worship Shiva, and then this Angkor Wat brought in Vishnu worship, Vaishnavism. It gradually, remember, the temple walls have stories of Ramayana, Mahabharata, and the priests there are all from South India, right? So they have been there for generations, right? And it gradually turned into a Buddhist temple towards the end of the 12th century, and is still used for worship today. Not abandoned. It's still worshipped as a Buddhist temple. Angkor Wat was initially designed and constructed in the first half of the 12th century during the reign of Suryavarman II. Suryavarman, पल्लवा में महेंद्रवर्मन, नरसिम्हवर्मन ये बताया. ये सूर्यवर्मन कंबोडिया में आया कहाँ? Remember I told you Pallavas and Cholas had got a friendly relationship with the Southeast Asian country. Business भी था, कहीं शादी वादी भी हुआ है, right है. कोई पल्लवा की रानी वहां भी महारानी बनी, right? कोई कंबोडिया का राजा यहाँ की युवराज बने, right? That's part of history. Suryavarman II, right, ruled 1113 to 1150. It is undoubtable that the Pallavas and Cholas had great navies which not only did business but fostered culture and art and architecture in those countries, right? Otherwise, why in Cambodia somebody will make a South Indian looking temple, right? The influence of the Pallavas and Cholas. And this was the capital city, Angkor Wat, and in your international tour, add it as one location which you must see. And then comes the question of the day.
Sir.
Yes?
So, why this gradually change in worshipping gods arrived?
No, I didn't. Tell the question again.
Why this gradually change in worshipping gods arrived?
No, Dr. Monica, could you tell what this question is about? I'm not able to follow.
Beta, what you can do, you can type that question in the chat
Yeah,
box so
in
we
the
can
chat
understand
box.
that.
Can you put it in the chat box?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I look at it. We are in the finishing stage.
Yeah, let sir finish it, because it's a time for sir also. Just let him finish. Okay.
Yeah.
You put it in the
We are
chat.
just finishing, and sorry for the interruption. Coming to, that is Angkor Wat, make it as an international destination to see a South Indian temple in Cambodia. So there are other South Indian temples in Indonesia and other places, but it is the most famous of the lot. Why did the South Indian rulers build temples of such magnitude, and why did their successors make continued additions to the work? Remember, the main temple was made by a king, then his son, grandson, etc. expanded it, made it bigger and bigger and bigger. Why did these kings make temples? Certainly not solely because of their faith in religion. ऐसे नहीं है कि ये सब भगवान की प्रिय थे. Perhaps they wanted to overawe the enemy. The Pallavas made a temple which will look better than the Chalukyas. Ego. हम हाथ से बढ़िया बनाएंगे. The other countries should say, wow, क्या मंदिर है. And subject with an enormous, and the people of their country will believe, हमारा राजा के पास क्या नहीं है, इतना बड़ा मंदिर बनाया. Right there. So these temples were a piece of show that yes, we can do it. Perhaps they wanted to impress their subject with a show of love for the religion. They wanted to tell the people of their country, look, we are with God and God is with you. Right? God is with all of us. Right? So the sort of social psychology they were using. Perhaps they wanted to atone for the sins they had committed by killing innumerable innocent people in the bloody wars they fought. Remember, Pallavas fought, Chalukyas, killed him, this, that, right? बहुत सारा खून की नदी बहाया, Cholas killed Pandyas, Pandyas killed Cholas, right? बहुत सारा खून है, इसकी प्रायश्चित एक मंदिर बना देते हैं. In fact, most of the temples were built after the king won a big battle. So you can say that the temple building has a lot of social psychology. Probably it is a price for the king. Whatever they did, हमारा heritage तो बन गया, right? They did not,
I think that the last point is very valuable over here.
Oh yes, coming to why? Otherwise, a chemical engineer, chemistry degree holder, Professor Natarajan, का मौका देने के लिए वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज डे में ये लोग मंदिर बनाए थे. Let me also tell you a secret. I became a chemical engineer because of social compulsion, parental compulsion. Engineer banu. In fact, in the board exam in 1973, I got more marks in history than mathematics. Yeah.
Oh, really, sir?
Oh yeah, सच्चे में mark sheet में upload कर दूँ.
And you were the most popular teacher